Good morning. So yesterday was a giant fail. We tried to put together the pin that Kelly gave us and it was short parts. And I actually talked to my son because he had bought one very similar to that and his was shipped short of parts. That's hard to say. So plan number 2 is I'm going to take this carport that I have that I bought for something else and we're going to make a chicken pen because we got to get the chickens moved out of the quail hut. I don't know if I've cut my head off or not.
No, you're full in it.
Oh, good. I'm all in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so number one thing that I'm really glad that we chose to use this one is the pipes are smaller in dimension than the ones that I got from Costco. Now this was half the price. So there's that. I don't know how well it's going to be able to hold lumber on it to put the metal roof on it. So that may be an issue. The other thing that I'm not finding is directions. Now we put a whole bunch of these together, so it's probably pretty self-explanatory for us. Okay, so it's just a matter of assembly. Well, first you attach all the ends to the legs so that you're ready to attach them to the roof once it's that time. But you actually put the whole roof together first. And then, which is something we didn't do, you should put your tarp on the top and attach it all. It's easier that way. We don't do it that way, but that is the easiest way. And then you add your legs and put it up there high up in the sky where it's difficult to reach, especially for Kira because she's 5'4". I'm 5'8", so it's not as hard, but putting your hands up in the air that long is exhausting. So this, you can definitely tell the cost difference between this one and the Costco one. It's not terrible. I think it's going to work for our project. Being that I'm not going to keep the tarp on this permanently, I will be putting a metal roof on later. So I'm not really worried about the quality of the tarp and that kind of stuff. But I do think that you would be replacing this tarp in probably a year if this was the one that you stuck with. So next in line, I went to Home Depot and purchased a bunch of 2x3s. I wanted to make these fence panels lightweight so that I could carry them by myself if I needed to. And this is kind of my test run for making fence panels to actually fence in my yard. So, you know, for that, there'll be a whole different application, but this was kind of my thought process is learning this, because definitely as I was making these panels, the first one I ended up changing and the second one was a little bit better, but by the third one, I'd perfected exactly what I wanted. So this is a stain, not a paint. I ended up only doing one coat. Here's the plan. You're not going to make it super duper thick. Paint all of these sides, all of this.
Not that.
Not that, just all of this, and then we're going to let it dry, and then we'll flip them, and you'll paint the other side. And then we'll flip them, and you'll paint
It's going to be not easy, but I guess some of the other side.
Yeah. This super cute grandson of mine, he loves to help out, and I was so impressed with his painting skills. I always let him help. I let him figure out how much he can do. Now, I'm a mom that raised a son, so I know how to raise boys. I'm sure if I had daughters, I don't know, maybe I would micromanage them better. I don't know. I just let the boys do it. Like, what do you want to do? He wrote his name in the stain. Like, he did all kinds of things. But once it was stained over, you couldn't see any of that, so that's totally fine. And the other bonus of this stain is it dries very quickly, so even though you see him leaning on it, now obviously this is fast forwarded, so he's not painting this fast, but he didn't get any on his clothes, which I thought was really cool. I did pre-approve this outfit for painting though, just in case. But he did a fantastic job. Absolutely love that he loves coming over and helping Grandma. It's pretty fantastic. Now, Kira and I were in the background putting up that very first panel and figuring all of that out. So we're now building the second panel for this, And like I said, I ended up just shifting minor things. So I think when you're doing this, we just measured and fit this for in between the legs. And then I made sure the legs were straight up and down, and it was going to hold them where they needed to be. These carports have a tendency to blow away if you don't stake them down really well. And we are putting this on little concrete pavers, and then these panels will also sit on those pavers, so be lifted up just a little bit. But I think with all the weight of all the material, we won't have to worry about it catching a little bit of breeze. Plus I have the trees around, so that may be something that you need to think about if you are just kind of putting this in an open field and you get a bunch of wind. I would probably anchor it to the ground in some form or fashion. So neither Kira nor I like stretching fence. This was one of the other reasons for doing these panels, instead of just trying to wrap this around, like putting the wood on and then wrap the wire all the way around the top in one continuous piece, is that's difficult. And so one of the things with homesteading alone or just us girls is you definitely find ways to do stuff so that you can do it by yourself. And these panels were one of them. So I do love how it turned out. One of the things that I will be doing in the next video is where you see this post on here, that will actually be covered with a 2x6, and that'll make this look really chunky, which is my official word that I use for this whole situation. So we used that, I think it's called a plumber's tape, where it's the metal tape and it has the holes in it. We just wrapped that around the post and screwed those into the wood, and that held really well. So I do recommend doing that. I have before actually screwed things directly into the metal posts, and I think that causes an integrity issue, so I decided to do it this way this time, and I really liked it. So I would definitely say that this is a project for a beginner that gives you a big wow factor at the end, so it makes you feel good about your building skills. You're going to be cutting 45s, you're going to be, measuring things and custom fitting these panels to, in between the legs and stuff. So you'll be using drills and chop saws and circular saws, but I actually did not use my chop saw. I just used a circular saw. All basic tools for this. I think the biggest tool that maybe isn't a basic one that I use is a planer, because I have some rough cut lumber from our sawmill that I used, that I pulled from our pile up that we have of lumber, and that had a big bow in it, and so I needed to plane that down straight.
So tell us your adventure of the day.
We got hatched out our eggs too early. We're not ready. She needs water in that bowl. Okay guys, you're not going to be able to see anything else because we want to mess with her the least amount. She's already tried to fight me when I grabbed those babies. Kira's gonna give her some water. We're just not ready for those. I wasn't expecting them until the 18th. Today's the 16th. So I guess it looked like there were 5. She has probably, I don't know, 13, 14 eggs in there, maybe more. I'm gonna finish this chicken coop, and then we gotta get moved over to there so that those babies don't get picked off. Ginger, I don't even know what to tell you, girl. You didn't give me no babies. And you just complaining all the time. So here on the ends, this is a 10 foot by 20 foot. The legs kind of slant out a tiny bit. So I would say it's about 4 inches shorter on the top than it is at the bottom. And I kind of wasn't expecting that. So have your tools ready, be prepared to fit it exactly. Good morning. So we are on day 3, I think. It could be 4. I'm not really sure. There was a test period for a day, I think. But anyway, we're closing in these ends. So I've got to do a little bit more painting. I'm sure you guys are tired of watching me paint. So I'm just going to get this painted and I'll be building a door. So I will show that. So I don't know, you guys, this is taking longer than I thought it would. And our ducks had babies. So we got to get done with this and get moving on to that. So here we go. Let's get on with this day. I was pretty shocked at how exhausted I was. I thought this was just a super simple little job and we could pop it out in a couple of days. It did end up taking us a little bit longer. Here is how I'm doing the doors. So these doors are a little short. I will have to duck my head to get in, but I wanted to fit them in between the bracing that I had at the end. So they're about 5'4", 5'5". And so I just did the little corners and then also wanted to have the metal on the bottom. That is the 2 feet section and the wire up on top. So let's talk about the wire, because I'm sure anybody that's dealt with chickens is going to come at me because I'm using the 2-inch by 4-inch rolled wire, and that is not recommended for chickens. So when I was building this, I had to think about the predator issue that we have here. We do have cougars, we have bobcats, we have bears, which obviously if a bear wants to get in, it will get in. I personally have not seen bears on my property, but the neighbors have on theirs. So, or at least the scat. We will be coming back and adding the mesh wire as I can afford to do it, because that stuff is very, very expensive. So for now, this gets our chickens in here and they'll be happy and no worries. But like I said, I will be coming back and adding the mesh wire that is for even the smaller predators, because we do have weasels. So that is an issue. So make sure that you check what your predator issue is in your area. Another thing that we have, which is why I don't free range, is we have eagles, hawks, and owls. So they will pick off your chickens quicker than you can even, like, overnight. It's crazy. So that's why I hadn't released them out of this pen, the quail hut yet, and was not releasing them until this was built. We will be closing these upper ends in with the tarp that comes with it. We'll just roll it up, and so that'll enclose that in until we get to doing the roof. And then we will have a solid plywood top up there. So these ends were definitely just custom fitting the lumber to the space. So I've decided that it would be much easier to just hold it up there, draw a line, cut it, and then put it up, and that worked really well. We got nice snug fits, which I think is very important. But you can see how the bottom is actually not touching the ground, that bottom 2x6 board. And I will be filling, putting some dirt around the edge on the outside to cover the wire that you will see Kira attaching here a little bit later. But this went really smoothly. I was impressed with how quickly this all went, this section. The 2 ends we got done in 1 day, and it was really fast. And it was a little bit easier putting the wire on when the panels were laying on the tables versus up. But this is actually very doable. It's very nice to have someone hold the wire while you're nailing it in. You disappeared. Okay, so this is the same wire we're going to use, cutting it in half. These are 20 feet sections, so there's 2 of them there. So it's 40 feet. That'll go on the long ends on the ground on the coop. So let me show Kira and you guys at the same time what's getting ready to happen. Okay, we need to find center on these guys here. So you think there's a lot of painting. There's a whole lot of cutting wire and nailing wire with those little U-joints. So I would say if this is something that you're gonna do a lot, which I do see in my future, I wanna see about some kind of air nail gun that puts these in. So if you know of one, comment down below of what I need to look for, because I think that was the worst part of this entire build, which was nailing those on. And Kira did take that feat on for herself because squatting down like that is really hard on my knees. So yay, Kira, for taking that over. And she doesn't mind it, so that's good. But just put the second door in, and this is not a door that we're going to be using a lot here right now. It's going to eventually, when we expand this run into another 20 feet, it will move into the next 20-foot section. So we do just kind of attach the doors to where they can't be opened. I will be fixing that actually today while you guys are watching that. I bought the hinges, picked them up at Harbor Freight. They were pretty inexpensive, and I'll be able to make that front door work so that I can get in and out there. One of my favorite things to do is sit and listen to the chickens. So I set up my table on the outside of it, and I'm able to drink my coffee or edit my videos sitting right there and listening to them. It's pretty fantastic. I love that. And I mean, really honestly, are you an actual homesteader if you don't have chickens? Now, obviously, when you see my chickens, I have silkies and I have Dougals that we hatched out earlier this year, and they're very tiny birds, so they're little small eggs, which are great for pickling, but also just eating. I think it's 2 eggs equals 1 regular sized egg, and for me that's absolutely fine. I do have 22 birds here. I'm not really sure how many are roosters or how many are hens. We haven't figured that out yet. So now that we're moving on to the metal, these are 4-foot sheets, and I wanted to cut them in half, so I just ended up using the circular saw to do that. Do that at your own risk. There is a lot of debris that falls off of those little metal shards that will fling, so dress appropriately and be careful. Definitely wear eye protection. Pre-drilling is the key to this. So if you pre-drill your little holes all in your stack, you can zip these up really fast, and it really does make the project that seemed to be taking forever with all the prep work that we did get finished very, very quickly. So these are 3 foot wide, 2 foot tall, and I just proceeded to put them all the way around the bottom, and that will help with snow coming in the winter time. So if you don't have snow, you really maybe don't need to do this part of it. It does add a little bit of a cost. I think it was about $120 for me to add all of these. I had pre-bought these a few years ahead of time for a different project and just wanted to get this done, so I pulled from those. But it's definitely not a must. So, and the one thing that makes me sad is I can't see my chickens from my kitchen window with that, but with the amount of snow that we get here, I feel like it's very important. In this particular shot, you can see where we have the ground wire going out 2 feet and in 2 feet. So there's a 4-foot section that something would have to dig in order to get out. And I will be covering all that in dirt and bedding so that the chickens won't be catching their little feetsies on the wire on there. So some people use the little mesh, but I feel like it's extremely expensive. So I know it appears like I'm just tossing these birds out there, but I'm not. It's just fast forwarded. When I watched this after, I was like, wow, that's aggressive. But no, I just kind of held them in my hand and dropped them. So they are so cute. Look at them. Silkies are adorable. They will nest really quickly and hatch out anything that you want them to hatch out. They haven't found the food yet. They haven't found the water yet. Okay, so that's going to be it for this particular video of the build. We have a whole lot more to do. We've just wanted to get them released out of that smaller area. We've got to put in bedding. We've got some finishing touches that we need to do. We've got to get some stuff around the edge. So if you like chicken coop content, make sure you subscribe. We'll be showing you all the things that we end up adding to this and all the other things that we end up doing with it. So thanks for hanging out with us. I know this was a long video. If you made it this far, give me a thumbs up. Say hi. Bye. Hi, Mama. Bye, Mama. Hi, Mama. Want to go see the chickens with me? She's like, no, let me in the house. I want to go back to my babies. Well, here it is, all finished. Not all finished, still a lot more to do. But the chickens are so happy. Hello there, handsome. Good morning, everybody. We'll be adding bedding and roosts and all the things. So come back for that.